Welcome to the Simple Minds podcast, where six mates unpack three topics over a new drink each week. Fuck it, just go with that. We'll fix it if it's...
Episode 9, gentlemen.
It is.
So we're over the episode, hump episode 7. We smashed through 8. Welcome back, Marco, for 9.
G'day, guys.
We are without the beautiful faces of Matt Hannum and Travis Hodo, so shout out, lads. Obviously missing you, and I would love your feedback once you get to hear what's going on.
Yeah.
Not that we listen to our own podcast.
Only good feedback.
Slight different today. We're recording it on a Thursday versus what we usually do on a Friday.
Thursday morning.
Thursday morning.
Morning.
Right after our lovely Brekkie Club, which I got some great value out of this morning, guys. I'm sure that you
That was
guys.
really good, yeah.
So not that I didn't think about bringing alcohol this morning, because I don't really give a fuck, but I didn't get myself organised well enough, so I apologise. So the next best thing is one of these Nitro Brew coffees from our friends at Pixel on 226 Oxford Street, Leederville, just across the road from where we're at. They're amazing coffees. I mean, I love a Nitro Brew, but only because it's different and it's a massive pickup. Just don't do it before you go for a float.
I was going to say, I remember you swinging by a float and go, hey, you want to go for a coffee? And you got the Nitro brew before a float. How was that float?
That float, I reckon the only thing I could liken it to was an ant on a puddle of water. Have you ever seen an ant try to start a puddle of water? I reckon that's what I would have looked like.
Yeah.
Scurrying around and it was a hectic float.
It's like I'd never have a coffee before meditation in the morning.
Yeah.
But because your mind, you're buzzing.
It's a stimulator,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So gentlemen, cheers.
Cheers. I like it.
In our plastic cups.
In our plastic
Clink,
cups.
clink.
Ding.
Ding.
Going to be pinging after
The
this.
podcast could get interesting as we do, as
the
we
deeper
devour
go.
the coffee.
We're on the nos. We're on the nos. The nos of coffees. All right, so we're going to open up with a question, position, challenge.
Yeah, position.
Oh, hey, let's just
challenge.
shout out who's here.
Oh, yeah. Michael from Meta Creative here.
Justin, Blank Canvas.
Marco from Shell. That's a really weird introduction to make.
I wasn't sure what.
I don't know, I just went down that way, you know.
Yeah.
Why not?
And I'm Conrad from wherever I want to be at any given point in time in my life. All right, let's just open up with Michael.
Okay, I have been listening to, actually over the last probably year or so, listening to a lot of a guy by the name of Jordan B Peterson, who is a Canadian academic, I suppose, from the University of Toronto, I think it is, who is a very, very interesting character, and a lot of the stuff he talks about has religious undertones. But I listened recently to a podcast with one of our
Clinical psychologist.
Clinical psychologist, yeah. He came into notoriety last year when he took a stance against the Canadian government putting in a law about the same gender pronouns and stuff like that. You know, transgender must be called this, XZ, all these different pronouns and he took a stance on that from a freedom of speech point of view and kind of went viral on YouTube, and he's now got a huge following of people, and he's sort of anti sort of social justice warrior types, and you know, there's a lot of people in universities in Canada and groups, anarchy rising, and he's very against that and just wants people from an individual point of view take some responsibility for themselves. Interesting character, so check him out, Jordan B Peterson. But the part of what I want to talk about today is I listened to him on the Jocko Willink podcast the other day, and I think it was from the end of last year. And the big conversation in it was our capacity to be evil. Like, we all have evil in us, and you know, there's never a time, there's no humans on earth really that are purely good. It's not. It just doesn't work that way. I mean, we've talked about yin yang, the balance. So, and the difference between a serial killer and us, or a psychopath and us, is that the values and your conscientiousness in every situation and how you sort of address that. But also I spoke to Conrad at the beginning of the week, and I talked to him about an experiment, or we talked about the Milgram Experiment, if anybody wants to look that up. And this was an experiment, I think from the early 60s at a university, where they pretty much the experiment was on obedience to authority, and Stanley Milgram set this up to. What he'd set up was a machine that had was giving people electric currents.
Crazy experiment.
So he brought normal day-to-day men in, and on the other side of the sort of panel, which they couldn't see, were people seemingly hooked up to this machine, and they were asked questions. And you had an authoritative figure standing beside the person, telling them to ask questions and telling them to sort of.
And this was all contrived, right? I mean,
all contrived. Nothing was actually happening to the people on the other side. But so participants were led to believe that they were assisting an unrelated experiment in which they had to administer electric shocks to a learner, and these fake electric shocks gradually increased to levels that would have been actually fatal down the track. And what the actual main idea behind this was the Nazi, the Holocaust. How was it possible to get to that level of atrocity? And it was, a lot of it was
because he has studied en masse those types of situations, right? Auschwitz, the genocides, and all that. So
and he was wondering how the population can be turned into such evil, and that's where I'm bringing the evil side into it. How normal people can become or go down that rabbit hole of becoming evil. And this experiment was, I think, in the end, about 70% of the men that were brought in to run this experiment got to a stage where they were administering fatal electric shocks to the people on the other side. They heard screams, as they went up the scale of volts. So they'd ask a question, and if they got it wrong, they had to give them an electric jolt. But the authority figure beside them in a lab coat with a notepad sort of looking over them was the one sort of pushing them, telling them, no, you must do it. And 70% of the people that did it went to a stage that would have probably killed somebody on the other end. And the people on the other side would actually go quiet at that time, but people still did it because this person of authority was telling them what to do. So I suppose, I don't know, the question for today is coming to terms, I suppose, our capacity to be evil. And we do it on micro levels all day, I think, but we control it. We get angry with somebody, we get pissed off, we maybe think something that we shouldn't think about, but we control that and bring it back and are self-aware enough to sort of control that part of it. But I don't know if, and I suppose it's quite an open question, do you guys ever think about that, your capacity to actually be your evil side? We all have a dark side, and Harry Potter actually is a really interesting character. And Jordan B. Peterson talks about this. Harry Potter being he is half dark, he is half evil, but he can control that. But he can actually use it to his advantage as well. He maybe takes risks and does things that maybe somebody that was being fully conscientious and good and thoughtful wouldn't do.
But I think
it allows him to actually control and actually be the hero in the end. But that element of evil.
If we do exist in a state of 50-50, let's assume that, right?
Yep.
Dark, white, light, dark, whatever. Yep. To get more out of life, you have to be able to control that dark side.
Of course.
Which is what I've learned and read and listened to in a series of podcasts, including the latest stuff I'm listening to by Tim Grover, who talks about the dark side a lot. Because I don't believe you can get further than your opponent or further than your competitor if you're not going to be able to embrace
harness that
part of you and use it to the extreme.
I know even the Aussie slang, that mongrel in you, that bit of you that can make a situation turn to your favour and with your values work correctly, but it is there.
Because
and
it's an internalisation, right?
I don't know whether it's fully relevant. I can't say I ever look to things as evil, but the dark and light is, in some way, an interesting way to put it. But I've just come off reading Dalio's, I talked about last week, and he went out on an investigation to talk to all these kind of successful kind of people who were very philanthropic.
Tantric. What's that?
Tantric.
Don't know.
Tantric. That's a good word.
It is. Add it to the vocabulary. And he studied all these people and he was doing this stuff of assessment of Myers-Briggs and we talk about Enneagram and other things like that, right? And a lot of these highly successful people, even though they were running charities and doing amazing things for the globe, rated extremely low on concern for others, as in they didn't care, individually, like they cared at mass, but they didn't care about hurting people's feelings per se, because their ambition or thrive for the mission of the greater good, they couldn't care less about certain individuals. Now, I don't know whether that's kind of
definitely, it's
taking on the dark, but
Yep.
all of these people who from the outside look like they're super caring for these great causes,
Their overriding values are
they
caring,
rated
but
extremely low on having concerns for individuals in these kind of tests.
Sorry, are you saying that they rated themselves as extremely low, or they were rated as extremely
Well, they were through Dalio's kind of analysis, and I guess the tests that they did. Maybe I assume it's a combination of both. We might have to confirm.
be like personality tests and stuff like that.
And it's through personality tests. It was super interesting to me. Like Steve Jobs is known to be an asshole. But has done great things for technology and things as well, but has been known to be a complete dick. And there's a few others where he referenced as well, where they're not super nice people, not overly nice, but they've achieved amazing, great successes and things. So I don't ever look to things as evil.
I'm struggling with the I think the connotations that come with the word evil, because
Me too.
But
I would acknowledge that
As a kind of biblical, I suppose, religious way, our Anglo kind of Judeo sort of society uses from the Old Testament and all that good and evil as the kind of basic sort of building block of the human.
So my immediate reaction is to say, well, no, I don't. In that case,
so
I
you
don't
have
think about evil, but in the context that Justin's just put it in about being when you're clear on what you want to achieve, and more importantly, and this will relate to my topic, when you're clear on why you want to achieve what you want to achieve.
No, your story doesn't relate to your topic.
When you're clear on why, you understand the compromises that you make, and you embrace those, because when you believe in the why and you accept that not everyone's going to agree with that, or that you're going to have to piss people off because you can't please everyone. So if your question relates to being conscious of accepting that and knowing that you're not going to be able to please everyone, and that you then label that as evil, then I can start sort of seeing that more in my day-to-day, or at least pushing myself to try and...
So I'm probably looking at it more from just like from day-to-day activities. So you're doing something and you have a sort of bad thought about, and everybody, you'd be lying if you said you never have a bad thought about something, be it like hurting somebody. And these are could be flashes of thoughts, but you control them. And the way you're built from your values and the way you've been brought up, that doesn't become a big issue. But it happens. And that's where people like, the guys at the Columbine killers and stuff like that, they've gone down a lengthy spiral of just sort of blame and it just becomes a self-perpetuating sort of cycle of going down until he gets to the stage where he walks into a high school and shoots up everybody, kills people just to make a statement on his state of mind, pretty much. So I'm just saying, I suppose I'm saying normal people have control over that, but we all have it in us. It is in us as human beings. We've got 350 million years of evolution as animals. We are animalistic, and things like looking at a lion eating an antelope. We look at that and go, oh, that's horrific, that's terrible. But in a way, it's actually beautiful. But that's the reality of life is that it's violent.
I don't know, that makes me hungry.
But then you come back to then it circles back to perspective.
Of course,
Yeah. So one person's view of something would be evil, and another person's view would be necessity.
I think a lot of people are overly sheltered. And in a bubble where they don't maybe come to terms with the fact that And we talk about suffering. We've talked about suffering before. That there is a bad side to life, and it's never like living in a sort of fairyland of unicorns and sort of rainbows.
Yeah.
Is just you're just telling yourself a lie, pretty much.
Yeah.
So coming face to face with evil in every, and I suppose evil is, and now again it comes down to the English language, doesn't it? How we've been perceived to be evil or as a word.
Well, it also comes back to tie back into that. I think it is the ability of us as humans to buy into other people's missions and other things through whatever that is, and do things that are not congruent with you just because someone above
and
you
how
told
easy it
what
is to
do.
fall into that.
And how easy, and I think, I mean, that's shown on the masses now, where I genuinely really agree with the statement Gary made in that, you know, a lot of people are worried about stuff that are happening in the world right now, yet this is the most peaceful time in human history ever over the last 10,000 years or whatever it is of our existence, and yet we're still concerned about evil and terrorists, and yet more people die from those things. So more people die from general day-to-day activities and other things than terrorism and pure acts of evil, right? And you know, he talks about, though, the net score of humans is positive. The net score of this 8 billions of us, because we could,
and maybe
on
it's that 51-49.
He says on a day-to-day basis we could do so much harm to each other if we really wanted to, but we don't.
Yep.
You just touched on mortality, right? Briefly. I came up with I got given a number yesterday. Do you know what the biggest killer of humans in Australia is?
Skin cancer?
82% is the number.
This thing's responsible for 82% of deaths of Australians.
Yep.
Old age?
Wow.
I don't know.
Oh, is it old age?
Cancer.
That's a good guess.
Gravity.
People falling.
It's a true story. People falling.
Okay.
Crazy. True story.
What's the? Do you have any more like depth into that? I'm just like
ticking
just
away.
Like, I don't need to break down a demographics inside of that 82%.
So I got the number yesterday, and I am getting some data on it. But gravity is the number one killer of Australians.
Bloody Einstein.
Well, it's humbling then, I guess. It's just like
stumbling,
bumbling,
humbling. Anyway.
I mean, it's perspective too, right? Which I think you were alluding to, Marco. It's can all be perspective. But yeah, whether you listen to too much nighttime news,
definitely,
and the other stuff, you can easily be influenced.
I'm just saying, I don't think you can be completely blinkered to the fact that evil is among us and in us.
Well, again, I think I struggle with the term evil.
Yeah.
Me too.
I think so. I get the context that you're in and the extreme where your subject matter is. But I'm probably more comfortable, and I hate to say that, but I'm probably more comfortable in understanding the light and dark within humans.
But you're a religious guy, yeah?
Yeah, 100%.
Good and evil is like Cain and Abel is like.
Get it? Oh, yeah. But I don't. I think metaphorically it was just showing you the two halves of a whole. I think because that's how I understand it to be.
Yeah.
So and so I think more the commonality.
Good and evil.
Yeah.
That's just the same
Black
as
and white,
light
yin
and
and
dark,
yang,
black and white, yin and yang. It's just evil.
It's contextually where you split.
Because what's the opposite to good?
Bad.
Bad. But evil's like another level of bad.
Yeah,
right?
I guess an
level.
interesting reflection is how negatively we've reacted to that word.
Yeah.
And in a way shows a lack of self-awareness, because everyone does have evil within them, except I feel like I don't right now, but only based on observing my reaction to your question. So
I've pulled legs off grasshoppers before to see what happens to them, and wings off flies. I've done that. That's evil, right? In the context of what you're saying.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
And so it's just I'm at the moment big on self-awareness in my journaling. So hey, I'm going to be exploring that for sure.
Yeah.
Like, what do I do?
And I think what Justin, I think you said at the beginning about the ability to have that bad side, that evil side, to actually progress in life. Being able to harness that dark side to actually
I'm
be
more
good, I suppose, down the track.
Similar to what you're saying, I'm more interested in
Me, Marco.
Marco, sorry.
Yeah.
Santiago, Marco. whatever else we've called you. The reflectiveness of it. So from a self-sabotage perspective...
I don't think you think it's just reflecting it. It allows you to make a decision to... But like firing somebody, there's an evil part of that, isn't there? Or
Is there?
I think so. Well, there's something you have to use within yourself to do that. A lot of people...
Well, I think you're circling back to perspective on that, right?
But I think when I'm talking about reflection, you're talking about journaling, which is reflective.
Yeah.
How that would serve me if I was to use that tool would be where have I, gone into negative spaces that have allowed me not to fully appreciate or fully receive or fully see the picture that I've been looking at.
Yeah, I would kind of agree with that, because there are moments where, and I'm sure you've had this, like Conrad in coaching, where you would have said something that was just pure outright asshole.
Yeah.
And in that moment, that could have been viewed as an evil act or a bad act. It was maybe inappropriate, but at the opposite end, and this maybe comes back to perspective, which is maybe a topic for perspective on that. That's probably what was needed in the moment to cut through that other individual's self-talk and other bullshit, right?
Yeah.
BS. So, maybe you can harness the dark. Maybe it's a combination of both. With perspective, you can harness the dark for light, and that we all have it.
You can harness the dark.
Yes, I think that's what Michael was kind of alluding to.
But you've got to be aware of it. And you can't harness something you're not aware of. So to define and find where that sits with you, where that line sits, where that... I think, with you.
I suppose admitting to yourself that there is bad in you, and the ability and the potential to be bad.
Yeah.
Cool. Great topic.
But have a look at Jordan B. Peterson. You guys as well. Have a look at some of his YouTube lectures.
Did he recently have a podcast with Jocko?
Yeah, I think
Willink.
November. Yeah, last year I think.
Willink is another one who's off the chain.
Jocko opens up that podcast with a story about the rape of this girl from just horrendous sort of.
It sounds
story.
evil.
Yeah.
Marco, let's go, bro.
All right.
Jeez, I'm really interested. When we knew you were on topics, I'm thinking, where is this going to go?
Okay, so I'll provide context on why I went down this route. So over the past week, the girl that I've been dating essentially decided that she was no longer interested, and that was earlier than I expected to happen. We were going to have to go our own ways anyway, but it was just earlier than that. And the reason I say that from that perspective is because it's important for me to accept that that's what's happened. The reality, it's not from a victim mindset. It's just that's how I need to put it so that I deal with it. So it was a blow to the ego, and what was really surprising to me going through it was how much motivation I lost for absolutely everything through that process. Even though I knew what, it was coming, how little I was focusing on anything to fulfill my needs as a result of that. So what it made me do was audit why I do what I do, and quite a few interesting insights came out of it. And I did hear that you guys spoke about this last week.
2 weeks
and
ago.
2 weeks ago. And when I wasn't here, and I think you got grilled in particular, Michael.
I can't even remember it, to be honest.
It was just a blur.
Absolutely
blacked out.
I wasn't that
I can't
bad.
use a term I was just going to use because we
Wasn't
they shut the series down.
And we're not mentioning this ever again on the podcast. It's not going to be a running theme now, is it?
That was episode 7, I think that one. No,
I can't remember. Yeah, I think so.
And so I really struggle with answering why. When I first sat down with Conrad to have some discussions, just the general mentor discussions that we have on a weekly, fortnightly basis, Conrad was like, well, figure out your why. And I've always really struggled with that. I always come back to it, but I've never crystallized it. And I say all this knowing full well that it changes, and we're not going to go down that path of, it changes and it depends on your context, blah, blah, blah. So it led me to a really, really, I think it's the 6th most popular TED Talk of all time, which is Tony Robbins' why we do what we do.
That is a shifter.
Yeah, that is big.
That is a fucking
Yeah, so I've had
shifter.
a big morning going through that.
That is
I
a
watched
shifter.
that this morning.
I watched that this morning.
That is the single
Yeah.
biggest reason why I started listening to Tony Robbins, believe it or not.
Yeah, I can definitely believe that. And I remember listening to this when I started all of the other stuff that I've been changing, working on myself about, and revisiting it today.
Do you know how many views it's had so far?
21 million.
Phenomenal.
So,
Phenomenal fucking tech talk.
Is that the one where he picks out that guy in the crowd?
That guy happens to be...
No. He
Yeah.
doesn't pick anyone. So
No,
Al Gore
Al
is
Gore's
in there.
there,
Yeah, he
Yeah,
talks
and
sort
he's
of
talking-
directly to him about...
So I'll give a little bit of context around why I think this talk is a great catalyst into starting to understand your why better, and then I'll give what Tony talks about, and we can discuss how we each feel about.
But before you go, can I just say something?
Sure.
For you to go down this path today, not even a week after this has happened to you,
Yeah.
is a huge amount of personal processing that's gone on.
Oh, huge over the last
Right,
week. I
so
agree with that, and I'll give myself credit for that.
And that's what I was obviously going to be interested as to where you went, right? So shout out to you to be able to talk about this.
Thank you.
In this forum, because I guess you feel safe enough and comfortable enough with the work you've done on yourself.
Yeah, and it's been a big challenge. I'm pretty proud of the way that I've handled certain aspects of this. But the thing that I'm most proud of is I instantly switched to, what am I responsible for, and what does it teach me?
Straight as student mode.
Yeah, straight into it.
Love
So
it.
having that
Bravo.
has just been validation of what we're working on, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's like, it could seem like all airy fairy stuff, but they're great tools to cope.
It puts you straight into the humility space, right? To receive.
For sure. So the reason that this chat is cool is because Tony doesn't go about giving you a process of coming up with a one sentence for your why. He actually just more focuses on, if you understand your emotional state and and where you are in that space, you're going to be able to perform and achieve and deliver and feel fulfilled and work towards your why. So it's a roundabout way of getting to your why, but it's understanding the needs that you have. What does each of the things that you do, what needs on each of these different levels that he talks about, what needs do they fulfill? Do you understand those? Do you have them clear? And then by auditing that, you then get better at understanding why it is you're doing certain things you're doing. So I feel like maybe that wasn't the clearest explanation. What did you guys think? Is that all right? Sure. Or you're a little lost there? Okay, cool. So there are 6 human needs that Tony talks about. The first one is certainty. The second one is variety. The third one is significance. Fourth is connection. And those are the base human needs. And then he's got 2 that he calls the needs of the spirit, which are growth and contribution beyond oneself. And he argues that understanding these will help you understand your emotional state, that will control your energy and ability to continue getting after things that you want to get after. Now, why is this relevant to me? Because in reflecting upon why I do what I do, I realized that without me knowing, I started to draw a lot of my motivation from an external source. And when that external source was removed, I fell flat. And it's because I wasn't doing things for me, essentially, right? I was doing things for someone else. And even though the 6th need is contribution beyond someone's self, you need to fill yourself up first, look after yourself first, and then you're in a place to deliver for everyone else, right?
Put the mask on yourself.
Yep.
They tell you on the planes.
So what is it you were giving then? You're saying you were giving a lot out, or putting a lot of energy into...
No, sorry, I'll just jump in straight away. I wasn't saying that I was giving a lot out. I was just saying that my motivation was external. Whereas for the last 12 months, it's been very internal.
Yep, yeah.
And without me realising, it switched to external.
So it was like a bright focus over here that you were...
Yeah, and then that exposed me, and now I've fallen flat.
Yeah.
And now it's about, well, audit why it is that you actually were doing things you're doing and refocus back on those.
Yep.
So the question that I have for it, given all of that length of context, is... What are either things that you're focusing on at the moment? Have a quick think about which of these human needs do they fulfill, and then when you're real with yourself about the needs that they fulfill, how do you feel about what you're doing? And then does that give you any insight into why you're doing it, right? So you might pick a difficult relationship you're having at the moment, a business issue that you might be going through. Why are you choosing to act a certain way? And then if you look at that why, what needs are those actions fulfilling?
So just go through the 6 needs again.
So the 6
briefly.
needs are certainty,
Yep.
variety, significance, connection, growth, and contribution beyond oneself.
But the first 4 are kind of core needs.
First 4 are core needs,
Yeah.
Can I write these down?
Yeah.
and then the last 2 are needs of the spirit.
So that realisation you had about externalising your motivation, I had with my dad. Okay, so great lesson to learn at your age. I learned it some years later. And when I posed myself with that question as to who should you make happy, who should you be motivating and managing, it was always me.
Yep.
It was always me. But up until that point in time, I was trying to fulfil the dreams and to make my dad primarily proud and validate the sacrifices he had made.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's always interesting to see where your motivation's coming from, and if it's going to be sustainable, it has to come instinctively out of you.
Yep.
I've
Has
got
to be.
one from the last year or so, and I suppose it covers significance and contribution. Marco got me onto Orange Sky, who are
I'm loving what you guys are doing there, by the way.
who are a charity that do washing for the homeless and the needy at various locations around Perth. And it's something I've always been wanting to do, is give back a little bit. I mean, I run my own business, so I have a little bit of freedom in regards to the time that I can give up during the week. So I've been doing that now for 8 months or so. And I've been also doing a mentoring with underprivileged children in like Balga, sort of the northern suburbs areas, which has been really fulfilling as well. But I kind of look at that, and this is talking about contribution. I'm kind of doing it for myself as well. It makes me feel good, but is also helping at the same time. So, looking after myself is then having an effect on other people. So,
But there's an order to life, right? I say this a lot. Every successful recipe has an order of ingredients. And if you fuck up the order of ingredients, the recipe isn't necessarily going to end up the same way generally. Yeah? And I think life's a big recipe.
okay.
Yeah.
So is that in regards to what I'm...
Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with you taking fulfillment out. But
definitely, yeah.
But does it come first? Do you do it because it fulfills you, or do it because it helps somebody else? I mean, I don't know, right?
It's from a percentage point of view, I think it's like maybe 70% helping and maybe 30% fulfillment. Because you need to feel fulfilled in what you do.
You've got because otherwise you're not going to be giving the best.
Exactly.
So I think intention is an interesting piece.
Yeah, but that's been a big change over the last year, and it's a really powerful thing to be able to give back.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, that's probably one of the most powerful things a human can do, or should be doing.
Well, Tony Robbins adds on to this his 2 other things which he talks about recently, which is science of achievement and art of fulfillment.
Yeah.
And a lot of these things would fall into that art of fulfillment. What's interesting when I look through these, which I haven't really done, and this is cool because I'm going through a bit of a, self-auditing process at the moment. And I guess running a business ticks most of these things.
Does, doesn't it?
It creates
Externally,
variety,
internally.
significance, connection with people, growth, contribution. The thing is, I probably haven't acknowledged it enough in that context. The one that is interesting is certainty for me, though, because Business, in some aspects, is never certain.
But you're certain with your actions, right?
But I guess it's certain with the actions and the disciplines. In terms of, always challenging why I do what I do. And it ebbs and flows a lot as well, I think, motivations. Things get tough. And the certainty is really an interesting one. Particularly, we're going through an experience with my wife and I. We're doing a big move, and she's very uncertain about everything, and that's really, posing a lot of questions because there's such big unknowns. And I'm sure you've probably gone through a bit of uncertainty in the last week. Would that be the core root? Is that what you've identified as one of the core? Is that uncertainty or no? Or is that uncertainty on the why?
No, the biggest thing that I got was wanting to evaluate what needs am I fulfilling for myself in the things that I'm doing. So I just had this big realization that unbeknownst to me, it had all shifted to being external motivators. And
so you were almost trying to, for someone else, tick these boxes.
They were just the motivation, right?
Yeah.
They were the inspiration, the motivation.
Yeah.
I was excited to do a lot of the stuff that I was doing because of her, right?
Yeah.
And that was a huge wake-up call that I hadn't had the self-awareness to realise that was happening. And I had exposed myself. So in a roundabout way, I think what I was trying to get to here was, has anyone taken the time to understand why they're doing big things in their life?
Yeah.
And are you exposed?
Yeah.
Right? And because if you are exposed, figure out how to fix it so that you're doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
Right? I think that...
everything's got to be done through you, right?
Yeah, everything's got to go
through you. And you're your filter and you're your process.
Yeah.
And if you're talking at someone or you're not going through you, then why are you doing it?
Yeah.
Why do you exist in this body, in this shape and experience?
Yeah.
For what reason?
Well, I guess we've talked about that, I think, on the podcast before, which is, motivation around money.
Yep.
And or the disconnect where people are saying, I'm doing it for this or that, when they're actually doing it for some other reason, right?
Yeah.
I'm doing... So it's kind of like helping and contributing to... those causes like Orange Sky and mentoring kids and saying, I'm doing it because I'm want to look like a good person, and not admitting that you're doing it because it does actually fulfill you, and it's selfish.
Yeah,
it's a selfish act.
It's a selfish act.
It's one of the first things I always say about when I tell people I do Orange Sky. I was like, I do it first and foremost for myself because I do it because I want perspective.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of individuals out there who are like, we want to do all these great things, but then the underlying reason is they actually just want to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
But these human needs, and I've always brought it back to Maslow, right, which is the original that I'm comfortable going to, and I'm not saying I'm not comfortable going where Tony is, but Maslow adds the area of self-actualization to that, which is giving you the power to create. And that's a personal goal scenario. And then the extension to that is there's a bloke by the name of Yogananda who is a yoga guru that brought yoga to America at the same time that yoga was taking off in India. And Yogananda had the top of his pinnacle as self-realization. No, sorry. Yes. So we had self-actualization, self-realization. Mm-hmm. So it's always talking about the embodiment and the power that exists within. Mm-hmm. And that's what it all points to. When you tick these boxes and these foundations, then the connection emanates to a point where you can become the best version of you possible.
And it's part of that process and journey, right? Which you come back to, of understanding the intrinsic. They talk about as well, like once you hit a certain threshold for pay,
then money doesn't become...
Money's
not a motivating factor.
No, and in the majority...
It's around $65,000 for the Western world culture.
$65,000?
$70,000, which is the average wage.
70,000? Yeah, money doesn't become any influencing factor in motivating. Mm-hmm. And you have to find it intrinsically.
Yeah.
But I think as well, some people say, oh, you're so lucky you know what you want to do. And it's like, but it's not true, because it's always you are always questioning it and challenging it. And I think it changes from time to time too. And I still struggle to bring it back to maybe a deeper why, which is, was it the five levels or 3 levels of why?
I think we took it to 5, but 3 is still tough enough.
Yeah.
You ask why to a question 3 times.
Yeah.
And if you can give a good answer by the 3rd, then you understand it.
And so where are you at now?
Where I'm at now is...
I mean, it's pretty raw still, right?
I'm this morning going through the content that I was going through, just rehashing on stuff like decision is power, right? So I am empowered either by my actions or how I feel about things, right? So just refreshing on that was really strengthening. And, we were already chatting at breakfast with Justin and Andrew about, what are the next steps that I get in terms of pursuing the new path that I want to go down. So I'm getting back into that headspace and finding my motivation again. I just wanted to share that I had left myself really exposed without knowing, and encourage you to take the time to understand if you're exposed. If you're not, then great, but ask the questions.
The other interesting piece, which I don't think I got to you, and I'll briefly go through this real quick for the safety of time. I was challenged to learn about relationships by a priest when I went through my last breakup, and he asked permission to talk to me about what he sees as what makes a great relationship, and this is talk about where we leave power, right? So when 2 human beings get together, they effectively call that a relationship, be it man, woman, man, whatever the case might well be. But the union of two people create a third entity. Okay, that third entity is the relationship. Now, he contextually put that as a garden, whether it's a flower garden or a fruit and vegetable garden. He said 2 people are tending a garden because that's what the relationship is. And from any given point in time, they may equally share the duties of that garden. Okay, they might water it, clip it, but they both bear the fruit from it. Okay, and then any point in time, someone might do more than the other given what needs to be done. Okay, and that's contextually okay. But it's when that person is doing more and the other person is doing less, but still wants to benefit from, and we start to want to take from the people, that's when your relationship's broken. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm.
So, how do you guys feel about your relationships hearing that, I guess?
Jesus. We're different digress. I think, because
that's what I took from you, right? It became more about each other as opposed to what you both beautifully created.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
I think that's true as well, and I think it's important. It's a little digress, but I guess when you're in a relationship, each individual, it comes back to this, right? Each individual's got to understand their intrinsic motivators and why they do what they do and what they want to do.
And the other person's there to support you.
Correct. Because if the one or the other individual why is too reliant on the other, it'll become it's not sustainable in the long run. And I believe as well that each individual is their own individual, and then in another diagram is kind of like 2 circles overlap, which is the same, I guess, analogy, kind of like a what's it called? Don't know. 2 circles overlap in the middle.
Oh, the Venn diagram.
Venn diagram. That's the one.
Venn diagram.
Yeah, Venn diagram. In the middle is the relationship. So it's not one on top of the other, not 2 circles on top of the other, or one on the other, or in that case, like one person servicing the garden, right? And I think it's always understanding your deeper whys, I guess.
And communicating it as well.
And communicating and understanding each other's. But again, first thing you said, you've got to satisfy yourself first.
It's like you've got to love yourself, man. You've got to tend to you first.
You've got to tend to you first before...
You've got no right telling another human being you love them if you can't tell yourself you love yourself.
Yeah.
No right.
And I think once you start there, which part of that process is understanding your why, right?
Yeah.
On all
elements. Who you are, what you're on the planet for, and why you exist. What can you love if it's not that?
So, yeah, it's... Super tricky one.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for the reality check, because it just made me go, yes, I've learned a lot in the last year, and holy shit, I know fuck all.
Yeah.
Well,
because I'm challenged, for anyone who's run a business, you start it with all the right intentions, and then certain things happen, and then you're challenging yourself, is this really what I want to do? And then you have to come back, because it's fucking shit. The stuff you have to go through is shit. And then you build one level up, you're like, oh, I want that thing, I want to scale a big company. And then these other problems, and then you have to keep challenging. Like, I've been tested, I'm going through right now a thing of why? What's the point? Because in the long game, what does that look like? And because you have to have a super strong why and passion to get through the dog turd and the bullshit.
Yeah.
You can't pull it's that you have to have a compelling vision when you're getting pulled through the mud of the deepest valley through that. And you can't do that without a strong why.
And just rehashing, that why has to be internal.
It has to be internal.
It has to be internal. The instant you pick up that it's first and foremost external, you're exposed.
Well, it's not fulfillment.
And that's, you know what, guys, if anyone that's listening to this now or in the future, seriously, that is the biggest piece of gold I've come across in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So connecting it through, Marco, with the why, so you've gone through this and self-reflection.
I'm going through it, right?
Yeah,
so it's very, very early.
Yeah. So where's the why coming into it, and have you got any definition of what that why is? Or I'm trying to connect the why to what you're going through and your little self-discovery just now, and where that why... Is that still what you're trying to find, or have you defined it, or has it given you more clarity?
Defining.
Still, like I acknowledged at the start of it, was I really struggle with giving a answer to why I do what I do. But what I'm going back to is going back to doing it for myself. First and foremost.
Good.
So that's where I'm starting.
Doing
right? So every day, getting up and meditating and journaling, just doing me, right? Not training because I'll be able to ride better with a person that I was, dating, right? Or not, even the videography stuff, right? I was doing because she was really, really encouraging and supporting of that, and I got excited, and I thought that's kind of what she was.
You let that control go a little bit.
Exactly.
But it's good to get that.
It's good to get that, and then have it taken away and be like, no, go back to doing it for you, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with it. And I recognise that the topic, there wasn't a formulated question in my topic today, but for me it was important to share that intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. And this talk just got me thinking about it. It's so worth the 20 minutes to go into it. And Tony is a world-class presenter. And I don't give a shit if you have preconceptions about him being a motivational speaker or whatever. Just challenge yourself to listen to it.
Just listen to it. The amount of people I've put onto that it's been the stepping stone of a re-question of their life's been phenomenal. And I'm glad you got there. I don't believe I told you about that, so you obviously found yourself.
I've seen that quite a few times, that one, but I just went back to it today because it's literally titled, Why Do We Do What We Do?
All right, guys. I think on that note, we're probably going to keep it to the 2 questions today.
I think so.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Justin.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys.
Shout out from me. Just a shout out to Sharon Giddings and Melinda Bell, who have interacted with my story today on Instagram. And Sharon in particular said, all completely different to what I thought they looked like. All right, so guys, I don't know what you thought you looked like. I don't know whether you think you look uglier or prettier.
Oh, really? Okay, I see what you mean.
Oh, you're talking about the podcast, your Instagram story.
Yeah.
Really? Okay, cool.
So
I reckon people would think Justin's some sort of hippie surfer guru dude, from his voice.
Chill, man.
I thought I'd acknowledge some live feedback that I was getting through.
Feedback.
Awesome. I love it, mate.
Well, I posed a question at one point. I think at some point we should open up a couple more questions. If we got people
go
listening,
live on Instagram.
Either or.
Yeah.
We'd love some questions from other people who are listening that we could try and answer as
we'll just provide a bit of breadth on, right? I mean, what is the fucking truth?
Yeah. how can we try to simplify
and more
your
more,
why?
Yeah, exactly. And keep feedback coming. Like we can.
Have you read Simon Sinek's Start With Why?
I haven't read it. I've seen
it.
it.
That's really good.
Yeah, I rest assured I will be going through a lot of that over the next little while.
All right.
But yeah, cheers guys.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Are we
guys.
still recording?
Thank you.
Or
No, we are recording and we're out.
We're out.
Downskis.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Champagne.